I've always loved the classic horror films, and especially the ones that are based on the greatest literature of all time, including like Frankenstein, Dracula, Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and so much more. It's kind of promising to see a movie where they do a monster mashup. Monster mashups are nothing new before. They have done it since the 1930s in the golden age of films. But there's something about this one that kind of does its own style with it, but it's you could probably enjoy it a little bit. Like, by a little I mean a lot. This is Van Helsing. Van Helsing is a 2004 film that is actually directed by the same director as The Mummy. In fact, you would probably see a familiar actor from the Mummy series in this. And no, it's not Brendan Fraser or Rachel Weisz. It's the guy who played Benny. Here he plays Igor or Igor, depending on who you talk to. But he's practically playing Bunny, except he's Transylvanian, and he is one from an iconic film. So the whole premise of this is Count Dracula and his wives, who have a very proactive role in this, want to bring their dead children to life. According to the film, they are in these egg sacs and that they were born dead. And so they employ Dr. Frankenstein to find the key to life, which is pretty much him creating the Frankenstein monster. After which they kill Frankenstein, in which it's a downfall in hindsight, as the beginning shows everything going wrong for them, as an angry mob has showed up at the castle. And the Frankenstein monster, who actually I would call Adam here, because there's another Frankenstein movie where his name is Adam. He takes the body of Dr. Frankenstein and takes him to the windmill, which the windmill catches on fire because there's a whole bunch of arsenic in it. And the mob had set it on fire. It created this big explosion, and Dracula and his brides are now stuck waiting to figure out, okay, how does this work? Cut to a year later when you're in Paris, where Van Helsing, who's played by Hugh Jackman, starts hunting Mr. Hyde as he's hiding in the cathedral of Notre Dame de Paris. And it seems that that they finally found someone who's taller than Hugh Jackman to fight him. Honestly, like, when you see Van Helsing, he takes off this bandana thing he has, and he has to hide his face because he's apparently a well-known murderer in Europe. He's actually a monster hunter, but nobody knows that he is. And what ended up happening was that Mr. Hyde climbs down to, like, do a face-to-face with Van Helsing. And as you see, the camera moves up with Mr. Hyde. You can see Van Helsing's face be like, "Oh, so there is someone taller than me for once." And then what ended up happening was this really weird aerial sequence, which they destroyed the rose window of Notre Dame de Paris. And Mr. Hyde transforms back to Dr. Jekyll, who is just this giddy old man, and he falls to his death. And then they make it a point that one of the police officers who weirdly enough speaks English in this, it would have been better that they spoke French, but Van Helsing can understand French. But they made it that everyone speaks English in this. They have really weird accents in this. Especially Kate Beckinsale, who plays Princess Anna. She's supposed to be Transylvanian, supposed to be a gypsy princess, and the accent is a little off on that. But anyway, they make it a point for him to saying "you murderer," and so it's supposedly like supposed to set up this theme like, is Van Helsing a murderer because he's killing these monsters who was once men, or is he an actual monster hunter who saves lives? And it's supposed to be, they look like they're going to make it like this big debate, and they don't make it a debate at all. At one point later on, spoiler, Velkin, Anna's brother, turns out to be the Wolfman. He's supposed to be the werewolf, and Van Helsing does kill Velkin with a silver bullet, so Anna finds out, she finds her brother dead, and she calls him a murderer over and over until she realized he got bit by Velkin. So Van Helsing now has the werewolf curse. So spoiler alert on that. But his response to that is like, well, that's what I am. He like basically saying, this is what I am. I'm a murderer to men. I'm a monster hunter to others. There's no choosing, in a sense, which it doesn't really. He does not seem to be troubled in the fact that people call him murderers. It's only at the beginning he mentions like, you're the order. You're like in charge of this thing. Why can't you just tell people, hey, this is what's going on? Is like, and the cardinal is like, we can't do that. Technically, to the world, we don't even exist. In which Van Helsing replies that, well, neither should I, but I'm here. But that's the only time he's arguing, saying, he doesn't even bring it up. He seems resigned in the fact that he is this thing. This is who he is, and people kept saying he's a murderer, and sorry, but this is what's bugging me. They set up this thing where, like, everyone calls him a murderer, and usually when you set up the thing, it really bothers people. It really bothers the main character. It bothers the protagonist to the point that they mention it over and over again. But the thing is, it's only the supporting characters who are mentioning this. And Van Helsing the whole time is like shrugging it off, like saying, this is what I am, this is what I do, you gotta deal with it. Which I do like that he's resigned to like, this is what I am, this is what I do. But the thing is, usually characters do show that, yes, this still bothers him. This whole thing will still bother them, but they try their best to keep going. Here, he looks like he doesn't even care. He just doesn't care. Now, the only time you do see him actually care for people is that when he claims that he can sense evil coming from the Frankenstein monster. At one point, like, yeah, the Frankenstein monster survives this. I'm sorry there's a lot of spoilers, but spoilers. But at one point, he claims that he can sense evil, and that Mr. Hyde was evil, but for example, he knew Mr. Hyde was evil, but he knew that the good Dr. Jekyll was not, so they were going to try to see if they can split them apart. But he ended up killing him accidentally. It was that. He was supposed to bring him alive, but he ended up dead. But with the Frankenstein monster, he's like, I can sense evil, and even though it was created by evil, it was created for the purpose of evil, this monster is not evil, so I cannot kill it. Of course, the order says you have to kill it, it's evil, and he argues, like, do they even know him? So it also brings up arguing the fact that you can't really judge people by the preconceived notions of things. Again, it's with Van Helsing, people saying Van Helsing's a murderer or he is a savior. It's always under preconception, like nobody really knows. except for Van Helsing and Anna at the end. And pretty much here he's arguing the same argument, like, you don't really know this thing. They're like, he's not even human. He's like, well, still, he has a consciousness, he knows what's going on, he's brilliant, he's read, like, at one point they find a Bible, and so that gives everyone's a clue, like, oh, he can read, he taught himself how to read. Which I honestly don't mind. It probably makes sense in that era that random places have Bibles. Actually, that does make sense. But even as the monster is saying, you gotta kill me, I'm the key to do this. Like, literally, turns out, the key to bringing Dracula's children to life is the Frankenstein monster getting hit with bolts of lightning. And that's the only way to bring the kids to life. And it's just like, okay, but you could have just gone through his notebooks. He could have written something else. But apparently, Frankenstein, he dies. Again, I mentioned he dies. It seems like he did not write anything down. It's just everything from memory. Hello? The original novel of Frankenstein, it is a memoir. But the thing is, it's written in a journal of a captain as Frankenstein is telling him the story. So the whole premise, pretty much the whole thing started off as a journal. And as you see in like many other incarnations of the Frankenstein story, it shows that Frankenstein has written everything down. He has done this. So the thing is, in this film, nope, he didn't write everything down, everything was in memory. Like, that is not really in character of what he's done. Like, even in the novel, he carries around a whole bunch of journals and notebooks as if he's saying he does not want anyone else to get this information, and he's going to find a way to destroy this information. So it doesn't really make sense for the character of Frankenstein to do that. And I got off on a tangent for a character that's only been on screen for 10 minutes. Oops. Yes, I do that a lot. But I gotta get back. So the Order sends him to Transylvania to help Anna defeat Dracula. And it is where we see the proactiveness of the brides of not Frankenstein, of Dracula. And I've been thinking of the film, The Bride of Frankenstein. Anyway, you can see they have different personalities. And this is one of the few films that actually shows that each of them has their own personality. Most of the time they like have the same personality. They're more submissive towards Dracula, but with other men they're like more dominant. And here they are dominant. They're the ones who are insisting to do this, as it turns out, because Dracula mentions like, these are my wives who are insisting on doing this. And and you can see each one has their own personalities. The older one is the Queen Bride. And actually, fun fact in real life, Richard Roxburgh, who plays Dracula, and I forgot her name. I know Al's gonna put it up somewhere. Actually fell in love on set and actually got married by the time the film was released. And so that was a little interesting tidbit there that I found out. But the Queen Bride, she is more mature. She knows what she wants, and she's gonna get it. And she's actually very caring towards her sister wives in this. Muskla, the first one name is Verona. Each bride has her own name. Miska is the middle one. She's more impulsive. It seems that she is more of a is more of a little bit of a troublemaker, as Verona told her, please don't play around with them, just get this done and over with. And she doesn't. She just plays with them anyway. And according to some notes, they said she was a gypsy when she was transformed, which was very interesting to think about. It's like an interesting idea. And then there's Elira, who is the youngest and has been very fascinated with Princess Anna in this. Like, she keeps claiming that Anna's blood will give her more beauty. I'm like, dude, I'm like, lady, you're already pretty enough. You're beautiful, so why do you need to be more beautiful? But she seems to be very fascinated with Anna. She's the one who most likely will go after Anna first. And it's actually kind of interesting also the fact that there's a brunette, it's a blonde, and a redhead, and they all they died in a certain order. They died in a really weird order. The more impulsive one dies first, Miskra. Vera dies second, and then there's Ariela, who dies as at the last one before, spoiler alert, Dracula dies last, obviously. This is a Van Helsing film. This is a Monster Hunter film. Of course Dracula dies in this. And I see all the actresses do a really good job with the brides. They got the emotions correct. I think this, again, I love the fact that the brides are more proactive in this. Usually in films that has to deal with Dracula, they're not very proactive. It's more like they stay behind in the castle and seduce whatever man comes in so they can drink from them. Like every incarnation and the original novel, that's what they do. Here they have more, they attack the people. The people know about them. Anna knows about the brides to the point that she knows each one of them a name. And it's very interesting to think about. Another character I actually do like is Carl, who is a friar in this. He's played by the same guy who does the storyteller from 300. He keeps his eye at the end. He keeps his eye, and he plays the opposite of what you normally see him as. He is the Q to Van Helsing's James Bond. He creates all the weapons. He creates this little time bomb where it emits sunlight, and at one point he claims I don't know what to use it for yet, and then suddenly later on in the film they go to a masquerade ball where, with big shot, everyone except them are vampires. And what ended up happening was that he finds out what it does. He sets it up. They cross through a window to get out, and you see all the vampires coming in, and then suddenly the sunlight bomb goes off, and it emits itself throughout the whole palace. They're in a palace at this point, and everyone except for Elira and Dracula dies. I'm not sure how those two escaped. I wasn't sure where Elira was the whole time, but considering what's going on, but they're the only two of the vampires to survive that, and so that's really interesting. And then Carl, he's actually pretty funny in this. I think he's very funny. He at one point sees a young girl from the first wave of the vampire children. They were able to. There's two waves of this. The first one, they were kind of successful. They used a werewolf venom for this, but it didn't last long. So, and he saved a woman, and she tells him, "I don't know what else to repay you with." So you can guess what he suggested. At one point, she's like, "Sir, you're a monk. You can't do this." He's like, "Technically, I'm a friar," and that actually makes her think, "Okay, that's okay." It was very interesting to think about. Not think about that, but it was just like, okay, that's pretty funny. All right, and then he's the one who figures out that spoiler alert, the only way to kill Dracula in this version of everything is that you need to be a werewolf and you need to bite him. Apparently that's how you do it. And I'm like, Okay, but why is he using werewolves for his bidding? Like, the whole time you see him, he's commanding werewolves. Like, but why would he use them to his bidding if they're the ones that can kill him? Is he taking advantage of the fact that nobody really knows this? Nobody figured this out? Or is he just like, are they, in this version of werewolves, did they lose their human mindset so much that the animal and like they can be easily controlled? So apparently his claiming is that if only one has the will to do this, then Dracula can be defeated. So apparently normal means is of steaks, garlic, holy water, maybe cutting off his head. Fire would not kill him. The normal things that you do for vampires, it doesn't work apparently. So they just like, oh, he's the only vampire that can be killed by this. If every other vampire is killed by this, he's special because he's maybe the first vampire. Okay, he's the first vampire. Okay. And then later on, Carl, I just have to say Carl is awesome. He's one of my favorite characters in the film. Next to Anna, like many people have complained about Anna. I thought she's fine. Kate Beckinsale, I think she did a good job. Probably, but if you think about Anna's character and her backstory, of course she's going to be acting like the way she does. She wants Dracula to be gone from the family. The whole backstory is that Dracula made a deal with the devil to survive, and his father was supposed to kill him, and to do a deal because he made a deal with the Order. I'm assuming it's the Order. They're not really clear who he made the deal with. That if he kills Dracula, or somebody in his family kills Dracula, or somebody kills Dracula, they didn't really make that clear. Their family will be able to go to heaven. If they don't, they're going to be stuck in purgatory. And it ends up that her ancestor, she's the descendant of Dracula's father, so Dracula and her are related, which gives a lot of squack moments when you like watch the masquerade scene. It's like really, it's like weird. But at one point, so Anna is the last one of her family to do this. So the way she's acting, I think it doesn't really justify what she does, but it makes a lot of sense if you understand, like, she's the last one. She just lost everybody she loved in this. She has to do this, or else she and her and her family will not be able to enter the gates of heaven. And so, yeah, she's kind of on a time limit, especially when all the vampires are now after her because they know that she'll figure it out. She's actually very smart. If you think about it, she's kind of smart, but the whole family is okay. The whole family is not smart. Pretty much, like the way everything did, it's not smart. Her ancestor could have just written something down saying, "Do this for me," or you could just, "This is how you defeat Dracula." But no, he for some reason there's a map, and there's a whole map of Transylvania, and one piece of it is missing, and someone gave it to the Order, and like, okay, you just doomed your whole family right then and there, because they're not going to figure out what's going on, because the map is actually, spoiler, a doorway to Dracula's castle. Yeah, it's a doorway to Dracula's castle. And so, but you need the whole map to do it, and someone ripped off the piece, gave it to the Order. 400 years later, Van Helsing gets it, and they took, like, I want to assume 3 days to figure out, okay, this is what this meant. I'm assuming 3 days, because I don't know how long this movie takes about. It might be a month. Who knows? there's already snow on the ground, so nobody's really knowing what day it is. The only time we got a time frame that is it's October and close to November because of All Hallows Eve. The whole plan of how they're trying to defeat Dracula is stupid. It is very stupid. Everything could have just been, time could have been saved if they had proper communication. I think this family has a problem with communicating because later on, Van Helsing meets Dracula for the first time, finds that you can't kill Dracula with conventional means, meets up with Anna later, explains what's happened. She's like, don't you think we tried everything? And she lists everything that he's thought of. And his answer was like, this is his answer. I wish you could have told me that before. Honestly, I think we all wish we could have known that before. And they just, the whole family didn't do it well. But I still like Anna. She is an action girl. You can tell she definitely wants to fight. But because, I don't know, because if it's her gender or they're like, okay, you're going to be acting stupid, so we're going to save you. But everyone stops her. The thing is, she is ready to fight. She wants to fight. She's not going to be ready. She's not, the whole time, once they get to a castle for the first time, the first thing she does, grabs every weapon she could find and starts walking out the door so she could go fight people. So she can fight Dracula. The only reason she didn't, because Van Helsing sprayed her with knockout gas. Which, by the way, I wonder where you get that from. I'm just very curious. But she's very headstrong, and I can understand why people don't like her. But again, like I mentioned earlier, if you understand what she had to go through, what her whole life has been, yeah, she would be acting like that. Someone would be acting like that, or at least she's not running away. Most time when it's something like this, sometimes it's the person who's running away and it's like, I don't want to deal with this. It's going to go downfall anyway. Why not just leave it at that? No, she wants to take charge. She just wants Dracula to be done with. Speaking of Dracula, he's the largest ham I ever seen of a Dracula. He claims that he has no emotions. But throughout the film, he's just shouting at random, he's having fun, and he looks like the world's massive troll during this whole thing. It's absolutely hilarious watching him just be who he is in this. And he claims that he has no emotions, that he's hollow. I'm like, dude, you're filled up to the max with emotions. The one thing that I do like, he does actually care for his brides. Most of the time when you see films with Dracula, he doesn't care much for brides. He doesn't care about anybody. Here, at one point he scares the brides to the point that he's like, please don't be scared of me. Everyone else is scared of me. I am so sorry. Please don't be scared of me. And they do forgive him. They do. And he gets them in his arms, and it leads to actually a very funny scene. At one point you see Igor torturing the werewolf, and so he has to ask Igor, why are you torturing that werewolf? Igor's answer was like, that's what I do. So I thought it was pretty funny. This film is filled with funny moments, I do admit that. But it's mostly Dracula has these funny moments. There was another one where you see Valken when you find out he's the werewolf. Spoilers, again. Valken said, I'd rather die than help you. This is his Dracula's response. Boring. Everyone who says that dies anyway. I don't know what. I just burst out laughing when I heard that. Why is this so funny? I'm thinking about that scene now and I'm laughing. He reminds the actor who not the actor, the characteristic of Dracula in this. He just, you can tell the actor had a lot of fun with him, with this character, and he does everything over the top, but it kind of reminds me of Lestat a bit. but if Lestat was Dracula, and but Lestat is Lestat. Lestat is his own thing, but this is like a different version of Dracula. And I'm like, this reminds me of Lestat, but he's even more over the top, and it's absolutely hilarious. He became one of my more favorite interpretations of Dracula. Like he can be scary. He is actually legitimately scary at times. Like when you first see him, you don't expect him to come there. But that's the whole point of him. He just shows up at random. He will intimidate you to do things that he wants you to do. But he can be funny. It's just, I don't know why. I just really like this version of the character. And then, but there is one problem with this. It's the twist of the film. He is the one who gives it away, and especially goes with Van Helsing's character. Let me talk about Van Helsing and then I'll get to the twist. Hugh Jackman as Van Helsing. You can tell that he's trying to have fun with it, but also at the same time, he looks very disinterested. I don't know what they were going for. Maybe more of a stoic character who closed himself up, and then Anna comes along. He's just like he just starts to like open himself up again. Like the only other person you see him have actual emotions with it, like positive emotions, is Carl, and you can tell like the brothers at arms. They poke fun at each other all the time. Especially when you look at when Carl starts packing up for the trip. He like actually took an item away from Carl and started doing this to Carl. And Carl's like tiny. He's smaller than I don't know if the actor actually hunched over a lot, because you can see him just doing this a lot, and then at random you just see him like this. But he's almost the same height as Anna, and Hugh Jackman's like this tall dude, and he's just doing this, and it's just kind of funny to watch. But that's the only time you see him like picking on someone. Other times he's like a deadpan snarker. Yeah, I can't get that right. Shut up, Al. But every other time he's just like, he's very stoic. He's like very disinterested in what's going on around him. Like but when he starts falling for Anna, he starts to open up better, and it's just, that is interesting. But the thing is, turns out Van Helsing's immortal. He's immortal, and in this film, that he's also amnesiac as well. Yes, make jokes about like Hugh Jackman playing another amnesiac who is also immortal in a film, who meets a guy who can possibly bring his memory back, who's also the villain. He got typecast for a while. Apparently his name is Gabriel in this. His name is Gabriel in this, and it's very hinted at that he is the archangel Gabriel, and that he lost his, still has an immortality. He fights for humanity. He lost his wings, and he's the one who killed Dracula 400 years ago, before Dracula became Dracula that we know today. And apparently he and Dracula were brothers at arms way back in the day. But the thing is, though, I don't like that. Maybe because I'm a big sucker for the classics, about how the original story went. But honestly, I think that they could have done a little better with that twist. Or maybe not have that twist at all. Or maybe if they want to keep originally this was supposed to be a franchise, but they killed one of the main, one of the most popular bad guys of all time, often early. What they could have done, and this is what I suggest, because for those, there's like so many different ways you can do this, but unfortunately, so Van Helsing becomes a werewolf, but Dracula has a cure. So in case someone has the will to turn against him, he can use the cure on them and find a new werewolf. Okay. So Anna and Carl go find the cure. Van Helsing goes saves the Frankenstein monster because they found out that the Frankenstein monster alive. They found him and they're now using him. It works. The plan did work, but the little babies didn't last long because Van Helsing kills Dracula. He does, and Anna ends up with the cure in the most ridiculous action scene, but it's really impressive. And Van Helsing is now a werewolf. He lost everything. It seems like he lost his humanity. She runs up, stabs a cure in him, but he jumps her, crushes her to death. And Carl's about to stake him when he realized Anna got there just in time, but Anna died. Which leads to Van Helsing howling. They did a funeral pyre for her by the sea because, like earlier on, she mentioned there was 2 instances where she's very curious about the sea. She's lived in the mountains and the woods all her life. She's never been to the sea, so they didn't. It was not like a one-off thing. They did, when they go to the castle for the first time, her castle, when she's preparing, she's like, how do you guys get here? It's like by sea. You've been by the sea. You could see her curiosity peaked. And then later on, he was like, her father was going to travel by sea, and she's like, I've never been to the sea. I bet it's beautiful. And so I think that's what gave them an idea, she really wants to see the sea. She wants to be by it. She's dead. Let's burn her at the sea. There's a cliff. But the Frankenstein monsters arc ends the same way as the book. He gets on a raft and paddles away with all his father's work. Apparently, they never bothered to read it. I forgot that he did write it down, so there goes that tangent. Oh yeah, you're right, Al. They never really show that he did actually write it down. Does the tangent still up? But you get to see this really. You have to really look for it. At the end, it shows Anna's. It's reunited with her whole family. Her mother, father, her brother, and all 9 generations of her family are now together, and they're allowed to go to heaven. And Van Helsing is it looks like he's going to have a better understanding of the world. He's going to keep going. And it looks like they're going to be doing a franchise, but because of poor box office sales, we don't get a sequel. There's no sequel. Though they are going to do a reboot and it's going to come out in 2019, 2020. I'm not really sure. So what did I think of this film? I liked it. It was a good movie that I can get into. I can actually believe in the world that they created. It's just there's some of the things that don't really make sense, especially if you do know the characters. So either in the movie or from the novels. If you're a very hardcore Monster Mash fan, you probably would not like this one. If you're just a casual viewer, you will like it. For me, I'll watch it again. Only to yell at the characters more. So this is Lady in the Movies.